Hi, I'm Gigas. Today I want to walk you through how you can control an in-game interface with just the click of a button. First, decide what your control interface should look like. For me, I've chosen a straightforward line of arrows, which I find incredibly user-friendly and easy to activate with just a button click. Once you've got your design, go ahead and place 4 or as many arrows as you'd like on your map. Initially, make all the arrows invisible except for one. This is the arrow your interface control will start from. Next, place 8 numpads on the map, lining them up next to each arrow in 2 columns. Think of each column as representing the logic for each individual arrow. This will help you stay organized. You'll also need a main trigger button. This button will serve as a message broadcaster, sending signals to all the adjacent numpads. In message to send, type counter 1. For broadcast type, keep it at everyone's in range, so our counter 1 message can reach anyone it needs. Set your own broadcast range to make sure it covers all the numpads. Slide wait before broadcast to true and enter interact in the message required field. Now, when the avatar walks to the button and clicks E, it will automatically send out interact message inside it and then spit out counter 1 message. Rename the first row of numpads to broadcaster 1, 2, 3, 4. In message to send, type arrow 1 active for the first one, arrow 2 active for the next one, and so on. Slide wait before broadcast from false to true. Make sure message required is set to counter 1. Now, toggle logic. The toggle component keeps 3 of the 4 broadcasters disabled to ensure only one arrow is affected at a time. Here's how to set it up. For the first broadcaster, set turn on to B4 and turn off to B1. The initial behavior state should be false. For the second broadcaster, set turn on to B1 and turn off to B2. Here, the initial behavior state should be true. This one is the exception. All the rest are set to false. So why is this an exception? So when the interface is activated, you start with one visible arrow. This arrow is essentially active and waiting user interaction. The adjacent arrow in the sequence is the one that will be activated next when the user clicks the button. That's why the second broadcaster must be next in line, so it must be set to true. So in simpler terms, setting the second broadcaster's initial behavior state to true is preparing it to take over as the next active arrow. And it doesn't matter which arrow you start from, you will always need to set initial behavior state to true in the next second broadcaster, okay? So now jump into the third broadcaster, set turn on to B2 and then turn off B3, false, and then repeat the same for the fourth where you type turn on message, it's B3 and turn off message is B4. So now add speaker components to the second row of numpads and name them speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, speaker 4, etc. Remove any display text. Set rotation duration to 0. Set speak condition to wait for message. Now, message required should correspond to the previously set arrow number active message. Remember, arrow 1 active, arrow 2 active, and so on. The message to send should follow the sequence B1, B2, B3, B4. So when the speaker component receives arrow number active message, then it will spit out a specific B message to either activate or deactivate next message broadcaster. Alright, so now place actor property switcher on all of your control interface units. In this case, I'm using arrows. Now rename each arrow, for example, green 1, green 2, green 3, and green 4. Now in message to activate, you'll need to add 2 messages. Arrow 1 active and arrow 2 active on the first one, arrow 2 active, arrow 3 active on the second one, arrow 3 active, arrow 4 active on the third one, and arrow 4 active, arrow 1 active on the fourth one, because we want the fourth arrow to interact with the first arrow, so it nicely loops together. Now go back to your first arrow, enter its logic, and in activation type, instead of fixed, set to toggle. This helps us reuse this logic every time it receives this message. In filter mode, click selected actors, and now in targets, you need to add this particular asset here. So if you're clicking on green 1 arrow, you need to place green 1 here. Now, in properties, you can either control visibility or collisions or both. I choose both. And for the visible arrow, for the visible unit, the first unit that you start with, you need to set collisions and visible to false, and the rest of them set to true. Because once this message comes down through the chain and arrives at the arrow, we want to make the visible units invisible and the invisible units visible. All right, so that's that. Now the chain is set up and it should be working. So now let's recap how this chain works. Once we click on the message broadcaster, it sends out counter 1 message to these 4 message broadcasters, but only one of them picks it up. The one that is set to initial behavior state is true. So once this receives counter 1 message, it then spits out arrow 2 act2, which it sends to this speaker component, to the visible arrow, and to the invisible arrow. And if you're hungry for more, you could start experimenting. I can simply create a relationship between this arrow and this button, and that's how you can control different units on a board like this. Alright guys, thanks for watching. It was me, Gikis. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you will come up with much more creative solutions than I did here. Good luck.